on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is freedom and commitment. And a lot of times we react to commitment or the concept of commitment as an impingement on our freedoms, but today we're going to talk about how commitment can open the door to a deeper sense of expansiveness and freedom. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding into your lungs, into your bloodstream, nourishing your cells and your organs, and just bringing a tremendous sense of vitality into your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, any negativity or fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, energizing. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension or stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just take a moment to press our palms together. Very, very softly rub your fingers against your palms. Feel how delicious that sensation is to bring yourself present to the magic and wonder of all of our senses, and bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm trying Zoom again. It looks like I'm streaming. I don't see any messages from you yet. Please, please let me know if you're here so that I can be assured that I'm having a dialogue with you and that this is indeed going live, which would be wonderful. So I wanted to talk today about freedom and commitment, because a lot of us are commitment phobic, right? Maybe not even not to the point of phobia, but we have an adverse reaction or response to commitment, or the idea of commitment, fear of commitment. And when we bring up the idea, hello, thank you. I guess I am live and Zoom is working. Good afternoon, Hope. Wonderful to have you here. Welcome, welcome. And everybody else who's joining us. So one of the biggest places we see this fear of commitment sort of thing is when it shows up in relationship. Welcome, Tammy. So good to have you here. Welcome, welcome. So I'm thinking that one of the reasons that we get fearful around commitment is because it means making a choice. And it means making when we make a choice. Good morning, Rosalind. So glad and good to have you here. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about commitments. And good morning, Isabel. So good to have you here as well. Welcome, everybody. Oh, you made my morning. So when we think about commitment, particularly in the context of relationship, I think that what makes it so confronting is what we call FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, what would be the next best thing? What choice am I not going to have because I'm making this choice? And I think that it's also, that can be very paralyzing, frankly. I remember when I was growing up, I was looking at going to college or studying certain disciplines and looking at, oh my gosh, that means 8 years of college, or that means another 4 years or 5 years or 6 years or something in graduate school. And it was incomprehensible to me at that time to be making what seemed like such a huge commitment. And it was my aversion to it was largely driven by my fear of what I would be missing out on in terms of life by making those commitments. And I think that happens also in relationship, where where we connect with someone, and rather than committing to a relationship with them, we're still sort of holding out for what else might present itself. And so through those ways of thinking, we actually keep ourselves in a place of paralysis, or a place of not being fully engaged. And I think of an example when I was experimenting with different disciplines around food, like getting involved with macrobiotics, or practicing vegetarianism or veganism or raw food diet. Any of these things were restrictions, if you want to think about it in that way. They provided certain constraints, but they provided a container. And within that container, within that quote unquote limitation, there was unlimited room for expansion. And I think it's really interesting when we have unlimited possibilities, until we narrow them down in some way, shape, or form, we can be readily overwhelmed by those possibilities. And as a result, be paralyzed and not do anything. So I'm thinking of also another thing that we think of when we think of commitment is that we consider that it's forever. And we box ourselves into making a choice that we believe we have to live with for the rest of our lives. And so what happens, and we can validate this by the divorce rate when we pledge our lives to another human being, but what happens is that things change and our commitments change, and that's okay. That's part of life. We can make a commitment now, and then if we find that commitment, that we've outgrown that commitment, then we maybe even negotiate up front the possibility that we may outgrow that commitment, and to look at, well, what would that be, and how would we navigate that if indeed that happens? We decide to leave jobs, we decide to leave marriages, we decide to leave lots of situations that become very constrictive. However, going into one of those situations can provide profound, tremendous freedom, like within the healthy commitment of a healthy marriage, for instance. There's unlimited potential for growth together, and the opportunity to experience dimensions of being and awareness that you would not ever have experienced without the commitment in that partnership. And the same thing with our passions in life, that we can decide to commit to a certain ideal or intention, and then explore and express our deepest hearts and souls through that commitment, through taking that stand. The other thing is that we can be designing our commitments in such a way that they are helping to define our freedom. So, for instance, if I have a commitment to self-care, is that a constraint or is that expansive? If I make a commitment to be living and moving from inspiration rather than perceived or imposed judgment, it's a very, very different experience, right? So we get to look at these notions of commitment and recognize that in applying a certain constraint, what we do also at the same time is open up the doors to an aspect of unlimited freedom. I'm wondering if you guys have any experience of this for yourselves, where through making a commitment, you felt expanded. I think a lot of us make commitments out of obligation, and that's where commitment gets such a bad rap, because there are certain things that I'm committed to in my heart that really have given me my life. Like when I committed to my vision and my purpose, it gave me my life. It gave me vehicles for expression. It gave me permission to be more myself. It gave me the courage to grow beyond my limited ideas of my capacity and my identity. And hello, Raja, welcome. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're very, very kind. So I'm wondering if you have experienced the same sort of thing, where through making a commitment, you got a deeper, richer, better sense of yourself. Good morning, Lisa. Lisa, Maggie's not with me here this morning. I'm at my mother's because we get to go to a doctor's appointment today. So I got to come over here. So Maggie is hanging out at home with my cat, Jewel. So I will relay your hellos to her. And so for instance, okay, here's another commitment, having a pet. Having a pet is a commitment, because then you have obligations and responsibilities to care for that other life, right? So for instance, when I took Maggie on, that was a whole new level of obligation and responsibility, but also commitment. And also it's been tremendously joyful and expansive for me, to be having this new friend in my life, this new being who is her very, very own person, so to speak. She's such a character, as you all have witnessed. So welcome, Raja from Pakistan. How wonderful to have you joining us here. So let's be digging more deeply into this notion of freedom through commitment, rather than commitment as an impingement on freedom. Yes, a lifelong commitment, Lisa says. Yes, to Maggie. Yes, exactly, a lifelong commitment. And, I've had, my dad was a veterinarian, and I had the gift of being very connected with animals throughout my life. Animals have been my best friends throughout my life. And I am very committed to them. These companions, these beings that bring their own personality and their own expression into my world, and then we share a world together, and it's so enriching. And there are constraints as a result of that commitment. Hi, Tammy. Welcome. So good to have you here. We're talking about freedom and commitment. And I think a lot of people, and myself included, at times in my life have thought about commitment as a constraint and a limitation. However, it's within certain limitation that we really truly find our greatest freedom. And Wow, John, welcome, John. I don't think I've seen you speak here before, and I'm reading what you're saying. I'll read it out loud. You've got 3 arms around your beautiful face. I see them all the time, sending you a message. Sweet lady, have a nice day. Wow, John, thank you. I'm wondering what those arms are and what that message might be. How kind of you to mention it. Thank you. So as we speak about commitment, I think that one of the things that makes commitment expansive is being selective and discerning in the commitments that we make. So only making commitments with which we are really truly aligned. If we are, for instance, I remember lots of family functions that I wasn't really thrilled to attend. And what I did was, rather than feeling oppressed by an obligation that wasn't my own, what I did was I consciously chose whether I was going to attend these functions or not. So in that conscious choice, I empowered myself to actively engage and be in alignment with that commitment that I made. And I could have chosen not to and been in alignment with the commitment that I'm not going to this event, for instance. So I think I put a very large stake on keeping my word. And when I make a commitment to somebody, I honor that commitment typically. And in some cases, I have allowed myself to fall prey to feeling sort of victim when I've made a commitment that I am then no longer in alignment with. Through time, I've learned that it's possible to renegotiate commitments and to be honoring my word, and at the same time honoring myself when circumstances change, and honoring the other that I am engaged with. So that's a really empowering thing to recognize, is that we get to choose again, that we get to choose ongoingly. And I know, for instance, marriage is set up to be a lifelong commitment. And I guess that's something that we get to decide, and we get to navigate. It's kind of, it would be maybe more practical if we got to renew our vows ongoingly, like if it were a certain term agreement, perhaps, that we got to renew. I have to share something with you that is a really interesting story, and it doesn't really have to do with commitment, but I told you just now that I'm at my mom's, and my mom lives in a high rise, and she has a balcony. And some months ago, she had a dove that would come and sit on the balcony and stayed there overnight. First there was, I'm not telling you the whole story. First, there was a bird that came and flew into the wall and broke its neck and died. And then after that, and that was very frightening to my mom. And then after that, maybe a week after that, I'm not sure of the timing, another dove arrived, and it would come and be there throughout the night. This was during the winter. And she would see it in the morning, and it gave her tremendous hope. And then the dove left, and she felt sad that the dove left. It came back again. She's got a chance to say goodbye to it, and it left again. Even though she was sad about it, she felt more complete. Well, as I'm sitting here speaking with you, I see just a very small portion of the balcony and not the place where the dove was hanging out in the past, but a dove, maybe the dove, flew right into the narrow area of vision that I have and has perched itself on the balcony and is sitting here enjoying this time with us. And it's just, you know, I had a friend who years ago said everything is symbolic and nothing is symbolic. So I'm being present with you in this moment and with the dove that has come and lit on the balcony and is just hanging out with us. Pretty amazing. So Lisa says, it's amazing how things change once you commit to making these changes, but setting that intention and following through goes a long way. So to your point, Lisa, there's immense power and magic in commitment. You know, when we align and when we commit to something, worlds open up. And that's been my experience when I committed to my vision of the eco park and my commitment to sustainability. It's opened up a whole new life for me. And I believe it's through that focused intention that we, as you say, how that we catalyze change. Lisa says doves represent moving forward and new beginnings. Well, that's beautiful. It's beautiful. New begin. So my mom is 90. And so, you know, she was seeing this dove or this one bird die, and then this other bird come and keep staying and visiting. And, you know, she had all kinds of thoughts about what that might be, but it filled her heart in a beautiful way to have that dove visiting. You know, she would look every morning to see if it was still there. So anyway, it's visiting with us now. I don't know if it's the same dove, but she lives on the 5th story of this apartment complex. And I have to say, I've never been here when a bird came and stayed, other than her doves that were showing up. So this is pretty fascinating. And I don't believe in accidents. So symbolic and not symbolic. Anyway, back to commitment. I think that when we take a stand, it's a portal. It's a portal to an entirely new world of possibility. It frames the possibility that we make available to ourselves. And I think, you know, our different commitments, and when I'm talking about commitment, I'm not talking about obligation. I'm talking about ideally creating commitments with which we are aligned, with which we resonate, which commitments which are moved from inspiration rather than external forces, you know, that move from the inside out. And I'm wondering if any of you have experiences of commitment that you would like to share, of how it's expanded your experience of freedom. So Rosalind, thank you for perfect timing. Freedom or expansive in a commitment aren't the words that I think of right away. Exactly. And I think that you're not alone in that, Rosalind. I think commitment has a really bad rap. Rosalind says, I associate commitment with operating within a construct. Exactly. And if we are in an amorphous, if we're in an amorphous environment, we don't know where to move. And having that construct gives us a place to plant our feet, and then we can create from that place. So continuing with what Rosalind says, the changing boundaries of those constructs, I guess, are the wonder that can unfold and steer the direction of other possibilities. Exactly. It's kind of like what I would imagine a wormhole is. A wormhole is, as I envision it, it's like a tunnel into a new dimension, right? So you go from this huge expansiveness into this narrowness that then expands into its own infinite possibility. And so I do believe, like, even with artwork, okay, I was playing for a little while. I look forward to getting back to it. I haven't made the time, which is interesting, but I was playing with encaustic medium, which is wax, painting with wax, and also creating assemblages that you layer over with wax as well. So it's a really cool medium to be playing with. And what I was reading about when I was looking into how to get started with it was the recommendation that you create a construct for yourself, create like a challenge. So for instance, to just work with 2 colors, and maybe to just work with certain forms for a bit, to be able to explore and express and expand. When you have an unlimited possibility, it's really hard to get into a rhythm, to get a sense of something, to be learning, to be creating an experience or direction. In order to have a direction, we need a place first to stand. Like, we can't get from here to there if we don't know where here is. So commitment can create a here, and then from that here we can expand outward. I think that culturally we have equated commitment with constraint or restriction. And I like your word so much, Rosalind, the word construct, because yes, the construct is a limitation in its way, but it also gives us kind of a board on which we can play. So if we think about our nature as spirit, and this is really an interesting place to go. I have 2 minutes before I have to wrap up this morning, but if we think of consciousness or source energy or God or global intelligence, it's unmanifest, and it's by creating the limitation of being in human form that this all-knowing, all-being consciousness gets to know itself, right? Through these myriad expressions, through all of our what appears to be limited experience, we get to experience and taste the world in different ways. And so that, like, human beingness is our primary construct. And within those limitations, we get to expand the boundaries and experience them. So Lisa says, I had become a recluse. I only left home when I had to, but I decided something had to give. So I joined the Y and committed to 5 days of aquarobics. Oh, how cool. It helped me so much. I started exercising and made new friends. This gave me the confidence to move forward in other areas as well. Brilliant, Lisa. So that is such a magnificent example of how a commitment can expand your whole world. So thank you so much for that. And thank all of you for being here with me, enjoying, I at least want you to know how much I enjoy your company and these morning conversations. And I'm just so grateful. So that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection. And usually Maggie and I go live together each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. I encourage you to check out all the other wonderful, wonderful programming from Enlightened World Network. And Rosalind, thank you. You are so welcome for the morning musings. Coming home to a wagging tail Maggie looks or sounds like, well, we can talk about that next time. So much love to you. Until next time, again, deep gratitude and appreciation. Take care.